Hello, Uipath Document Understanding Framework Export and Train. So in Uipath Document Understanding Framework we have seen taxonomy. What do you mean by taxonomy? Structured. We can define a structure of the document. Digitization. So in digitization we have seen we can non-digitized document and digitized document, we can convert the output in form of the digitized output format. In classification, we can classify the document. Extraction with different extractor. With help of that extractor we can extract exact field, or we can map exact field with output. And validation, whichever data we have extracted, that extracted data are extracted in a proper way, that we can do with help of the validation. That all things we have seen. Just go through all the video which I have recorded. Today we will see what is the export and train. So export is nothing but gives easy access to extraction result by exporting result from an extraction result variable to a dataset. It's simply whichever result we get from the validation result, we can simply pass the variable from validation result, and that result is converted in form of the dataset. Because whichever data we required, that data should be in form of some data, you can say data table format. We require a data table format or any variable format, right? So here the output is form of the data set. What do you mean by the data set? Data set is nothing but data set is a collection of the data table. Okay, for example, we have like here we can see there are two data table, and we can use data set to, for example, if I'll use a data set, so I can easily access data table 1 and data table 2. We can use multiple data table inside the data set. Okay, so all the result which we will get, now we can convert that result in form of the data set. So let's see in Uipath how we can do that. So this is the taxonomy, right? Load taxonomy. Here we can see the structure of the program, structure of the documents, digitized document. So with help of the OmniPage OCR, with help of the OCR engines, we can convert non-digitized or digitized document in form of the digital output. Classify document scope. With help of the keyword based classifier, we can classify the document. Here data extraction scope, so we used form extractor, right, to fetch the data. And present validation station, it's used to validate the data. Now we'll use export extraction result. Now if you see what is the input and output, as I said, input we have this var validation extraction result, so I'll use the same variable here, right? And the data set, so we need to create one data set. As I said, data set is nothing but collection of the data table, right? Collection of the data table. Okay, so now at the final we'll get the result in form of the data set. So I'll use for each loop, because it's an collection, right? Collection of the data table. So that's what I use for each loop to iterate to fetch the data one by one. Okay, so here I'll use for each loop, and I'll simply pass this var data set. Okay, and here I'll simply var dataset dot tables. Okay, because it's an property of like dot table, so here all the table is fetch one by one. Okay, so dataset dot tables. Okay, and here I'll simply use one write range activity. So inside this write range activity, now I need to pass the data table. Okay, so I'll use var dataset dot tables. Okay, so tables of 1 or like tables of 0, tables of 2, we can pass that, right? Sheet name, and we need to pass the file name where that data set is going to be added. So here I'll use one file here, Excel file, which is this one, and I'll simply create one sheet. If that sheet is already available, it automatically pastes the output in that sheet, or if that sheet is not available, so we can, that write range activity is going to create that sheet, right? So write range activity is used if we have any data table, and if I want to write the data of that data table inside the Excel file, right? That's why write range activity is used. And in the property, I'll simply check this add header, right? So now I'll just run the program. If you see here, this validation station is there, right? So that's why, see, 2170, so I'll just make this as a correct. Again 279, that means it's again a correct one. So I'll just make this checkbox as a checked and simply click on the save 20. Okay, now this program gets executed successfully, right? Now I'll use this Excel file. Okay, I'll just use this, I'll just open this, and I'll simply open sheet number 12, right? Sheet number 12. Now if you see here, invoice and customer ID, which we have extracted with help of the Uipath document understanding, and the value which we have fetched from the PDF file, right? We have validated that file, so that value is available here, right? So we'll get the result which we required in form of the data set. We convert that data set in form of the data table, and we print that data table inside the Excel file. So if we get the data table, then it's up to us how we can deal with the data table. There are different types of the different types of the way to deal with the data table, right? So this way we can use data table to write that data table value inside the Excel file. Fine. And train, what do you mean by the train? Train is nothing but train. We can, Uipath Studio itself, train the documents. For example, if you go with this taxonomy, right? So in the taxonomy, you can give as much as accounts or as much as documents, right? You can provide as much as field inside that. You can say invoices, or you can say resumes. Again, if I'll go with this classify document scope, if I'll open this manage learning, so here also we can provide as much as keywords basically. So we can train our program with a very proper way. So that's the meaning of the train. We can train the program, or we can train the structured, or we can train the architecture of the document understanding, right? So export and train. Okay, so export with help of the export extraction result, whichever result we'll get finally, we'll get that result in form of the data set. We need to convert that data set in form of the data table. So dataset dot tables, and we'll use the for each loop, and here I have used write range. So where dataset dot tables, now I'll use tables of 0 and sheet 12 and the path. So in this way we can achieve our result, right? So all this Uipath document framework is covered now. Load taxonomy, right? Digitize documentation, classify document scope, data extraction scope, right, validation station, and export. Fine. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for joining this video. Thanks for watching this video, and do subscribe my channel. Yeah, we will meet again with examples and the question answers regarding UiPath document understanding. Yeah, thanks again.